You do. No, you actually do. All right. I am ready if you are.
I'm ready.
All right, KID crew, we are continuing with our election coverage. And I have Lisa Marie in studio. She is a Republican gubernatorial candidate, and she has been busy. She's got a lot to share with us today. Lisa, thanks for stopping by.
Well, it is my pleasure. It's my honor, and I love when I'm home. I have to spend 90% of my time outside of Idaho so I can create movies about our children that are missing so that we can just make sure that our children come first.
And that is something that is so consistent with Idaho values. I want to start at the beginning of your story as to why you threw your hat in the arena for this gubernatorial race, taking on the incumbent, Governor Brad Little.
Well, most people that know me, if I was not a CEO, I would be doing stand-up comedy. And kind of to break the ice here. Most people don't know that I actually ran for U.S. House of Representatives federally in 2014. And the reason why I did that is that in 2005, most people don't know that Idaho was picked the entrepreneurial state in the U.S. News and World Report, and they were going to take pictures of the CEOs, and I ended up getting a phone call from U.S. News and World Report that I was chosen as to be one of these 8 companies, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I don't even think my company was doing $5,000 a month yet. But what I was told through the U.S. News and World Report is that they felt that I was a person that had so much love for what I was doing to fix water that I would end up being a billionaire. And I was like, okay, well, I'll have more money to help everybody. So actually, the day that they came out to do the photography, I just said, oh, you know what, just film me last, I'm good, you know, I know Jack Simplot. It's like there. And he was like, well, no, you're the one that's the only one being pictured for any company in Idaho. And it was true. So they took literally 18 rolls of film, and I was living in Idaho at the time, and I just remember we lived in the foothills, and there was this, I was overlooking the whole entire Eagle. I could see all the way out to Boise, and it had taken so much to be an Idaho mommy, an Idaho entrepreneur. I had no idea what I was doing, but I just had to follow my heart like Erin Brockovich, you know,
Right.
like the Lorenzo's oil story. And I can tell you that that's what makes Idaho so amazing, is because I had entrepreneurs, business owners, lawyers, like everyone across the board, because they saw what I was doing was here to help every child. And I could have never afforded the mentorship that I was given from these Idaho mentors. So as I was looking out, and I knew that like I would be in the U.S. News and World Report, didn't think I was going to be the centerfold picture. I thought my name would be in there with this tiny little picture. But when I looked out at our state, and I felt all the children and all the mother and all the families and everyone that's here, I was like, we are a state of 2 million people, and it's like we're one family. And there are very few states that have the population that we have and have so much in a state of 2 million people. I mean, the amount of celebrities that want to come to our state and still live here too, but they actually just blend in. People that come here that are actually, and I want to say, there are homeless people that come here that know that they can change their life, and they've come to Idaho because they feel safe, because they've lost their homes elsewhere. That is what we are all about.
That's a beautiful thing. And as you're talking about your story, and what a huge accomplishment, I can't even imagine how that must have felt. You've got a lot of these business skills, a proven track record. How do you see that really benefiting our state? How do you plan to use that as governor?
All right. Well, when I was rolling in what they would call a whole bunch of money and all of this business attention, once you get this business attention and you're known to be this great CEO, you know what, everyone wants a part of you and they all want to invest in your companies. And it was fun because I would say, well, I just don't need any more investors, because I actually didn't even know what I was doing. Most of the time, in your first 2 or 3 or 4 companies, you're learning, because there's no school to go to learn how to be a true CEO. And you just hope in your heart that you can have smarter people than you around you so that you can learn from what they failed at. And there would be so many things that I would do differently. But the one thing that is my accomplishment that would make me an amazing governor, and I do want to be the first woman governor. I've been running, I was actually announced in 2017 that I was going to run, in 2007, when I had landed the Idaho Statesman, I had announced that I was going to run for governor. And I was given a lot of grief about that. And actually the Idaho Statesman ran a very bad story about me just when I had announced that I was going to run for governor, instead of announcing in the Idaho Statesman that I'm running for governor. It was like something odd. And that's actually when I started seeing in our state capital collusion, deception, silence. I really realized that the elected officials that were actually there at that time, were they really there for us? And this is when I got really sad. And I was very sad over the fact that I would make a lot of phone calls, I would talk about what children need help, and I never got any answers from anybody. And I don't want to name names. And I just feel that our government is not being run like a business. There are no real checks and balances. When we are CEOs and we have to come up with $359,000 by tomorrow, we need to do this, and we just can't go steal it. We have to really come up with a really logical way on how we're going to do this. Because in business, you never know what's going to happen in manufacturing. You don't know if someone's going to sue you. You don't know what's going to happen to you. So I have heard from so many people before I even started getting around our whole world of politics that our political structure is not run like a business. If it was run like a business, it would be bankrupt. So we really do need entrepreneurs that know how to run businesses and run ships. I don't see that.
So that's something that would definitely flip the script on the status quo. KID crew, I mentioned that Lisa Marie has been very busy, and I am looking at these incredible comic books in front of me that tell quite a story. So let's talk about what you have done. You were concerned about the children, concerned that many of these missing children posters didn't even have pictures of the children, and you didn't sit back, you took some action.
Yeah.
So let's get into that.
Okay, well, quite honestly, the biggest fear of any parent is their child going missing. So my daughter was age 8, had an argument with her brother. We were downtown Boise, and my daughter ran down the street like a dog. And she was dodging traffic. And my daughter ran away. So the feeling of seeing your child run down the street, and I knew that if I chased her, it could kill her, right? So she disappears. My daughter is gone for 5 hours. I call the Boise Police Department. My son's just tripping out, like, Mom. I go, see what happens when you guys argue like this? Like, you never know what's going to happen, Jacob. So anyhow, we did get her back, but that 5 hours of not knowing where my daughter was, and the thing is I did become an expert mentally at that point, going, all right, what happens within the first half hour? What happens within the first hour? Many people remember when Susan Smith drowned her children. So my son was 3 months old, and I took on that in my heart as if that these were my children. Something flipped the switch. So between my daughter going missing for 5 hours, knowing what that felt like, and then Susan Smith, and we were being told back then that a black man, they targeted a black man, had taken the vehicle and the 2 kids were in the back. So I was imagining being one of those children, looking and feeling the comfort and the safety in your own car, but you don't see your mother. And then the next thing we hear is that she drowned her own children, right? I did do a memorial. Phil Batt was there. Dirk Kempthorne backed me all the way. And we actually built this handmade, carved it was just literal, it was like 5 foot by 6 foot. And we had signatures in there of all the citizens and the policemen and the firemen. And we gave that actually to Union, South Carolina. That was the tipping point for me to realize that I just feel that I'm on this planet to protect our children, because if I was not the best parent. I was a workaholic. I wasn't around all the time. And it's going to be disturbing for most people to hear, but both of my children were molested, and I did not know that. It was happening within the family. And I do want people to know, and people that are hearing this, they know this happens and you don't even know it's happening. When you have molestation in families that go generation to generation, you just don't know who are around your children. And people that are predators to children, the majority of them are experts at it. And I just want everyone to pause. And I usually, when I speak publicly, I start out, our world, our nation is in a dire situation. When we cannot protect our own children, and we can't, when we have over 1,000 children missing a day, and how I mentioned to you just a few minutes ago, if we came in from another planet and we landed on Earth, I mean, and I have to say this sometimes in a third grade way so that it makes sense to people. I've made 5 circles around the United States. I see billboards everywhere, triple high between California and Florida. You would not think that we have one child that's missing. I don't see posters. I don't see billboards. I don't see anything.
And that's why you have taken it upon yourself.
Yeah.
To do this campaign. And what I find really interesting is you've tapped into a $30 billion industry.
Oh my gosh. Right.
To raise awareness. The comic book industry is massive.
So what happened is, as soon as Michael Vaughn, when Joshua and Tylee, when I found where they were missing in Rexburg, Idaho, none of us really knew anything. And I actually took that and I kept hammering our media outside of Idaho, going, look at what's happened here. Here's 2 stepchildren. And I went to actually Sheriff Bartlett. I went to Butch Otter at that time. No, I just said, this is like not okay. And we need to do something about this. Went to the Idaho State Police. I'm like, how many posters can you print? I will get volunteers and we will put them in every public space. And we'll keep them in every public space. So my goal at that point was to say, we always need to flood our state with 1 million posters. That's half the population. And if those posters are in the hands of every employee, okay, in public places, that people, it's not out of sight, out of mind. And I kept getting heckled over that. So the reality is, I kept that in my mind. We need to get these posters in place. I started getting pushback in a number of arenas. And so I feel that, thank goodness I have connections in Hollywood from my company ReddRox. So I called a number of my producers and directors and I just said, look, it's unfortunate, but when my company ReddRox went big, it happened because we were on the show Weeds. They were actually holding the bottle ReddRox. In one day, we had $30 million in orders because Shane Botwin was double fisting it in one of the biggest scenes in the show Weeds. And then Nancy Botwin had it sitting on her table. So I said to my producer, can we just make comic books right now about missing children? I mean, it's not a comedy, but we can maybe look like Dragnet, and they love the whole entire idea. So I'm actually working with the top people in the world for comic books, for movies, for documentaries, right there in Hollywood and Beverly Hills and Burbank. And we were able to create 4 years ago the conceptual idea about having a character that would be as big or bigger than Batman, that would transform, it would be a mommy transforming into a hummingbird.
And that's what you have right there. I love it.
And I wasn't going to have me pictured here, but the reason why I did it is because Governor Brad Little would never answer my questions. I mean, we ran with each other in 2018. I said, Brad, why don't we account for every child, start Ada County, doesn't matter how rich they are. Is there any molestation going on in their home? Let's figure this out. Poor
What did
or
he
rich.
say?
Lisa, you got this. Turns around and gets up on stage. But it was funny because when we all started running, it was myself, Raul, Brad, Tommy Alquist. And what most people don't know is that gubernatorial candidate, Steve Pankey, was running with us in 2018. I want all of you to know that I was never allowed to go onto the Idaho public debates. The news would never even do a story about me. They said, well, I wasn't a real candidate because I wasn't out there spending $1 million. There was always an excuse why the public should never hear from me or have an open mic. And the more they did that is the reason why I kept running. So I'm just going to keep running every 2 years. But the reality is that our whole election system here, like what we did last night with all the gubernatorial candidates, Brad Little doesn't want to show up, but you've got people that from the heart really care about what's going on with our families and our communities and our children, and they feel that they have no voice.
So that really came through, didn't it?
Yeah, last night. So
the questions that were asked really kind of showcased where people's hearts and minds are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So not to make a joke of it, but some of the biggest movie production companies and producers that are out there, when they knew about the Hummingbird, they said, this is going to be bigger than Batman and bigger than Superman, because Lisa, you did it. You've been speaking in front of city councils and commissioners for the last 8 years. You're like the new John Walsh. And I said, I know I am. So I have a lot of agents that actually want to take the comic book, they want to license it, they want to blow it up in Comic-Con, and I said, no, I'm going to run for governor in the state of Idaho. I'm going to digitally gift, because I own the whole entire company, I'm going to digitally gift 350 million copies to every teenager in the world, every
That's a
teacher.
lot of copies.
It is, but think about that on a global level.
Mm-hmm.
350 million digital copies, they don't have to pay for it, to only high school students, teachers, law enforcement, all levels of law enforcement, and everyone in the medical community, because they all have to deal with when a child goes missing, especially on the front line. And most children that go missing, 7 out of 10, are teenagers. But why are they going missing? Why are they runaways? And there's always a difference between what's a runaway and what's a missing child. And the biggest case that I'm bringing out, so the first comic book is truly based on a true story of Taryn Summers, who went missing. Her brother went missing first, Tristan Sexton, 6 months earlier than when she was found dead in a trash bag in her grandmother's car on the border of Emmett, Idaho, the city, and in Gem County.
That's heartbreaking.
27 minutes away from my front door in Eagle, Idaho. We can't forget that. I mean, and this is in Gem County. I mean, look what's happened. We're in Rexburg with Joshua and Tylee, Dior Koontz, right here, Idaho Falls. I mean, this whole area. And then you got little Fruitland, Idaho. They have to start digging up a backyard because of Michael Vaughn. And we have to find, when we talk about an urgency, we have an average of 30 to 60 children that are missing in our state consistently. All of us need to know what those children, what they look like. Because if we don't know what they look like, how are we going to know who they are when they're standing next to us?
Excellent point.
Mm-hmm. And we have to realize that as soon as an Idaho child goes missing, they can be in Florida in 4 hours.
So time really is of the essence.
Yes. And so what the Hummingbird book is doing is we call it Hummingbird Alert. So we're creating an alert that is going to be able to be sent out to every business in Idaho. They give it to their employees, and their employees are given a poster of that child and a press kit. And then they're able to share that with their neighbors, because that's how it works.
And this is music to a lot of parents' ears, because I have talked to many parents who are frustrated with not being able to get the answers, and just that panic, that heartbreak that doesn't go away. And this is a practical solution where we can all jump in and help.
So I reached out to Town Square Media, and I said to them, because they're in 27 different states, they do digital marketing, you know, Town Square Media. And I just said, look, this was a year ago. I talked to Mike Sutton, who you know, and
Yes.
I called Mike, and I was like, Mike, I just looked on your radio website, and you've got missing children on there. Like, let's go.
Right.
Let's make a whole entire program about missing children. No, we have their parents on there. We can have, we can filter certain people out. But we have to say, all right, what's going on in each county? Like, we can literally take Idaho, break it down into the 44 counties, have people are all about our Idaho missing children, and they can be like the chapters in each county, accounting for every child that's missing. And we can consistently do that like the PTA. It doesn't have to be scary. And I use this analogy. I was actually on an interview in LA last week, and I just said, look, no one wants to see anyone drown, especially a child. So why do you wear a life preserver? Because you don't want to see them drowned. This is what we're doing with missing children. We're just helping them not drown.
And you've got a particular case right now.
Yes.
That is so top of mind for you. I'm looking, KID crew, and Lisa Marie has this official, it almost looks like a press pass.
It is.
And
I wear it everywhere. I'm in California. I walk into stores. I wear them everywhere. And they're like, what is that? And I said, Michael Vaughn is still missing.
And it has these beautiful images, and then whoever's wearing it is identified as a Idaho Missing Children volunteer.
Yeah, everyone should just have this. I want everyone to order one, I'm a volunteer. He's our child. So I just want to let everyone know, it is absolutely imperative right now that we find Michael Vaughn. So I have Town Square Media. We built a website that isn't mine, it's the community's. And this is what I'm talking about running for governor, is I told all the gubernatorial candidates, everyone puts their name on there. I made a phone call to Police Chief Huff yesterday. I said, I'd like for you to call me. I actually paid for a website to be made, and I now have a bid from Town Square Media. I said, look, I need you guys to give us, the community, how much is it gonna cost to be able to saturate Idaho about Michael Vaughn, why we need to find his body, and in radio, TV, newspaper, everything. Because if we can come up with this number, now we've made a duplicatable model. We do the same thing for every child. Dior Koontz, Stephanie Crane. And this model can be duplicated in every state, Florida, Rhode Island. So we as a state of Idaho right now, and I didn't do this alone, this took the support of everyone, my friends, my family, business owners, people that have been coming to me, that we have now made a duplicatable model. When a child goes missing, here, you punch here to be a volunteer. Here's a press kit, door hangers, table toppers for your restaurants, badges, you can be a volunteer. And now it's a cookie cutted for every child that goes missing in Idaho. Now, I just wanted to mention this last thing about Steve Pankey. This man ran for governor in 2018. He is now sitting in prison for life in Colorado. He actually was the #1 suspect for the disappearance of John L. Matthews in Colorado. And her body was found in 2019. There was enough evidence to convict our gubernatorial candidate for murder. So he's now sitting in jail, and if they didn't find John L. Matthews' body, Steve Pankey would still be walking around. So I don't want to point fingers about the case of Michael Vaughn, but we know from pictures that are being seen that there are more people that could be potentially held accountable. But without Michael's body, this isn't going to happen. And I want everyone to go online. The website will be up. We'll make you known of this, and it's called michaelvaughnstillmissing.org. So every child that goes missing in the state of Idaho, we will have their name.org, right? So I'm just saying, Stephanie Crane, stillmissing.org.
And I think the thing that's so impressive about this is because we know that time matters. And in those few moments after a child goes missing, so often people are paralyzed, and there's a lot of hoops that prevent a search from beginning immediately. With a press kit that's done for people, it saves a lot of time.
So we got the number 500,000. That's what's going to be on the website, so that we have the number there so people can be putting money in. And then the number keeps trickling down so that we can just saturate the whole state with Michael Vaughn. And then they're coming up with a number of what it's going to cost to saturate the whole entire nation and the world. Because that's what we have to do. I mean, there's no like, oh, we're going to do fundraisings and all this other stuff. No. Every child's life is worth saving. And if they are missing, we need to find these kids. And I'm going to say to you that I actually have people call me from law enforcement that have actually heard children who were found runaways, and they go like, I can't believe I was missing and I didn't even see a poster about me. And then predators have actually said, Elizabeth Smart actually said, and a couple of others that are high profile, because I've been reaching out to them, they're like, well, they said, well, you know, they're not looking for you anymore. That's it.
And that has to be crushing.
Crushing to that child going, no one's looking for me. And some of them are no more than a half a mile away.
Right. Often that's the case.
Chained, you know, whatever it is. So we have to go at this as if each one is our own child. I'm going to make one more note because you asked about running for governor. I act like governor every day, honestly. I'm not just out here looking for missing children. I came up with a solution. Water is broken. I didn't stop until that was a solution. And what people want from someone at the helm, because I honestly think you need like 10 governors anymore for every state, because our population is growing so fast. Most mayors can't even keep up with what's going on. So with all this growth that's happening in our country, there's going to have to be more. You can't just have one mayor. They're going to have to start changing the lines. You know, maybe you have 3 mayors for one city, you know, and each one has a different responsibility. But what you want from someone that's a governor, because you have to have a great team of people that are good at everything, because that's what a CEO is. You have to delegate. You can't do it all, but you can know enough when something isn't right and something is right. So I can tell you, yes, I would love to be governor. I love my state. I would love to be known that I had the guts to continue running, being called a perennial candidate, not being allowed to actually, you know, fight for the state that I love, and actually being one of your biggest entrepreneurs ever.
What do you want people to know most about you and your campaign?
Well, I call it the no-no campaign because I've actually never taken any contributions. I actually don't even know how I ran for U.S. House of Representatives against Mike Simpson, and I acquired 27% of the votes, and I only spent $300. I've been coming up with how everyday people don't feel like they cannot run for a high elected position, that they don't have enough money. Because I personally feel it doesn't matter how much money you have. Tommy Alquist should have run. He spent more money than Brad Little and more than Raul Labrador. Why didn't he win? I mean, he was really great. I loved him. So I personally still feel we've got 8 out of 10 people that aren't voting. It's fraudulent. We know it. People ask me, why are you even anywhere around politics? I'm like, I don't even know what a politician is. But what I do know is the structure is there, and we need to teach our children how to become state legislatures. We need to teach them when they can become a federal candidate at age 25. No, they're not even teaching it in school. Most people don't know the difference between a state senator and a federal senator. I didn't.
That's a good point. We debate so often what should be taught in the curriculum, but some of the most basic fundamental things that go to the heart of being a really productive and good citizen often get brushed under the carpet.
I'm going to tell you, I'm a mommy. I'm going to call it out the way it is. I clean my own house. I've never had house cleaners. It didn't matter how big my house was. I've learned how to really run on a tight budget. You've got this much money, you spend this much money. You have to teach people how to fish. You have to. And you can't be arrogant. And you have to run our government like a business. So I really applaud all of you CEOs that are out there that are honest, kind, and caring and can delegate. Can you please start running for the highest elected positions? Thank you.
Well, Lisa Marie, this comic book project is something that is really exciting, and this one is catching my eye, and we'll take a picture of it, KID crew, and put it up, but tell us about it, Lisa.
Look, I have continued. I walk in to Brad. I have videos all over YouTube Brad, I got the comic book. You're so proud of me. I got the Hummingbird comic book. Like, let's go find our kids. So if everyone had a copy, digital copy of this book, they're going to know why the Amber Alert doesn't work. So actually, the reason why comics came out was getting true messages. And so what I'm doing with Brad, I love him because we did have a lot of fun when we ran together. I don't know what it's like when you're running for governor. Maybe they say, if you say this, we're going to kill you, or we're going to kill your family. I mean, to me, it's like the mafia. So I want Brad to know that he is now the front cover of comic book number 2, which is Idaho Missing Children. I don't have time to do Idaho, I'm doing America. So he can be Idaho Missing Children with all his gang. He's the warrior, Governor Brad Little. He didn't show up last night.
It's a great cover. He's got to be proud. I mean, it's very visual. Idaho Missing Children, Warrior Governor Brad Little. We will get this picture up on the Facebook page, KID Crew, so you can see it. Your passion is so inspiring. Lisa Marie, thank you for taking time. And we're going to have to get you back so we can follow up on this. There's many more projects in the works, and we'll get you back in studio.
We can call it Project Hummingbird. That's what it's called.
I love it.
Yeah,
Project
right?
Hummingbird. And you look good as a comic book character. I love it.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Well, Lisa Marie, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you.